Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. So, today we're going to be talking about brand new, freshly baked out of the production Corona 11. So, this is literally the software just came out like few hours ago, so go ahead and go to the coronarenderer.com to get your hands on the newest and best Corona version so far. Welcome everybody, I'm so glad to have you. So Ramulo, Enes, and everybody else who just joined in, I'm Mogus. Hello, I see that I've got some of our students in here. So my name is Michael and I'm a teacher for Vizacademy. Vizacademy is a rendering school that will teach you how to create beautiful renders in less than 7 weeks. So if you want to join us, make sure to visit our website. That's Vizacademy UK. But I would like to tell you that today's video or today's webinar is actually sponsored by nobody else but Chaos. So that means that we're going to be talking about the software per their request, but I reserve my right to be obnoxiously honest about all the features that came out, and we're going to make sure to go all the elements in it. So we're going to be talking about the biggest parts of newest Corona, and we're going to start with something that I think that a lot of you are going to be appreciating, because this is something that I personally was waiting for quite a while. So whenever you will be working with scatters of larger crowds, you're never going to be using simulations for this type of situations. You're either going to be using literal scatters, or you're just going to be going insane. So in this case, I had to create for this shot, I had to make sure to create a big crowd because it's a festival area, and the story of it is quite long, but regardless, it's something that I'm really proud of because, well, it turned out great. The thing is that for the aerial shot, I was asked to create this crowd that's going to be looking at this scene, but the problem is that I had to split my crowd into parts and add the special rotation maps to allow them to look at the right direction. And it was really tedious work because I had to create multiple scatters or just one map to rule them all, and I still didn't have enough information on how to do it at the time, so it was actually something very hard to do. Hello from Tanzania. Hello, Yusb. Okay. Hi, Javiera. Hello, everybody. Now, I see that Raul has joined us. Nice to have you. Hello from Pakistan. Can you please tell us how to decide environment for your exterior scene? Well, it depends on your references. Obviously. Hello from Egypt. Hello, sir. Have learned a lot from you. Love, respect from India. Great to hear that. Thank you very much. And we are not done yet, so keep on watching. Hi, Ben. Nice to have you. Hello from Brazil. So going after what I'm talking, so going back to the topic, because I get carried away a lot. In this case, we're going to have to open one of the bigger scenes. So this club was in Greece, so let's wait for it to load. Oh, I can see that some of the textures are needlessly missing, but it's not going to be a big issue from us. Corona 11 with OCO finally. My name is Mike. Let's see. Now, yes, the live will be recorded, Matteo. Thank you very much. Hi Allah, hello. I see that your guys are just now having conversation between one another, so really nice to see that. Okay, so good evening from Finland. Perkele, I guess. Nice to have you. I have a friend there. Her name is Netta. A really nice person. Okay, so we're going to be loading a lot of scenes, and just because we're a little bit on the on the clock, I'm going to just grab a clean 3ds Max and show you what that feature really is. But meanwhile, while the element is loading, so we're going to see it in action, how to set it up, and then we're going to see it in action. So it's extremely simple to set it up, because all you need to do is have some kind of ground or object to place your element at. We're going to need some object that we can tell that it's rotated or not, and then we're going to just go ahead and move to our scanner. By the way, I don't know if it's 3ds Max or is it newest Corona, so let me know, guys, because this is something I'm going to have to let the devs of Corona know, that for some reason Chaos Scatter was moved below the normal viewing angle on this list. So be advised, if you cannot find it, it's going to be just one click below for no apparent reason, because it was never there before. So we're going to take Chaos Scatter and just add it in. The first thing we're going to be doing is essentially just regular scatter things. So we go to objects, distribute on targeted object, and instance object is going to be our teapot. Because we're not insane, we're going to change the display level to something else, let's say 100, and we're just going to go for full. And yeah, it's still too many, so we're just going to work with our transformations or with the size of our scattered object. So let's change the radius to 1 for fun at this moment. And this is why Corona is amazing, because it has so many easy things to easy solutions to all the problems. But first, what I really want to show you is the newest feature, obviously. So we can find it in our surface scattering, where it's going to be right next to slope limitation. So we, oh sorry, no, wrong feature, and that's the other one I'm going to be talking about. So this one is in transformations. So for now, I'm going to turn off any rotation, and all the elements are facing some direction. So as with the crowd in our scene that I am going to show you at some point when it loads, we're just going to go ahead and create a simple dummy. So to do that, we're going to make sure to go to our utilities, and we're just going to create a dummy object. This can be anything. This can be your camera, so it's going to be super cool for any kind of Atlas type of models. So if we are let's say going to be using 3 out to save a little bit of resources, and for example add a nice background in your shot. Typically scattering those objects was impossible because funny angles were always there. But now what we can do, and what's possible with the newest Corona, is that whenever we will be working with that software, we can go ahead, select our chaos scatter, go to our transformations, and there we're going to see that we've got look at option. We need to select what object we're going to be looking at, and then we also can decide at which axis we're going to be rotating our object towards this thing. So it's really going to be cool for let's say creating pine cones shaped objects, but at the same time the crowd is something I'm really happy with, because it kind of gives you that extra boost to, let's say, create extra super detailed carpets. And I'm hoping that at some point we're going to be able to even have multiple of those, because just imagine placing some kind of leg of your sofa or any other object, and just making all this hair strands just move away from that object. That's going to be extremely cool to do. It's almost going to be like simulation at that point. 3ds Max had sending OCU, but Corona didn't support it. Okay, hey, I just entered this amazing community. Thanks for helping us, brother. Thank you and welcome. It's really nice to have a +1 in the community. Hello, Mike from Yemen. Hello and thank you. So greetings from Greece. Just been there, Alexander. A beautiful place. I've already visited at least 4 of your islands, but still need to go to Athens. So how does this release support GPU rendering? Corona does not yet work with GPU because dollar for dollar, quality wise, if you're going to take into account that you have to buy beefy graphics card, or at least 5 of them to really have nice performance, when you compare the quality and if you're after quality, it's always going to be the same. So at this point, I would say that GPU rendering is very, very overrated, but it's faster because you're losing quality, and sometimes you can get away with it. So our crowd following, right? So in this case, we're going to talk a little bit about the scene I mentioned. So we've got this crowd, which is a little bit bigger, and in normal circumstances, you would be actually a little bit, let's say, disenfranchised to see that all of your people that you've created are just looking away at different angles, and that's going to be weird because I've had to really create a lot of those models. So how about we actually use this new feature a little bit better? So first of all, I've got my crowd. Those people are also proxies, but you can see the scope of the scene. It was actually very RAM consuming, it was annoying, and creating this in any other way was a big issue. So the whole festival area is quite big, and you can even tell that there's thousands of small objects, small simulations, a lot of elements were done. Unfortunately, the band didn't make it. That's a shame. But anyway, let's make sure to go ahead and just set this easiest thing ever. So let's go to our settings. That's going to be scattering, and next we're going to see the transformations. During live streams, 3ds Max likes to lag a little bit, so that's why it does it. Right now I'm going to target, and we're going to look at this dummy of my how's it called? A band, right? So let's go for that real quick. Okay, isolate selection just so we can have a bit more performance. It's not good your memory limited 80% of the time. Lol, CPU FTV. Yeah, for the win, for the win. The scene is so huge, man, and it's not even the whole scene, because the whole thing was way bigger, and you can see that this thing is there, right? So this is the outside area, and I can also show you a glimpse of the inside, where we had to create the whole club, which was gigantic, and you can kind of see the scope of the project. It took a lot of time to produce. Hope that the music is not going to be playing, but the funny part is that it was gigantic. So come on. Okay, let's see it. Okay, the video is boring now without the music. So this is a rather large club, right? And it was also part of the scene. Obviously we were hiding it, but you can see that all the things that you've seen on the video is pretty much in this area. So this was a project on its own, and we had to prepare all of those areas to show them. That's a huge thing, and having the ability to control the crowd a little bit better thanks to Corona and well, all the new features would be a blessing, but right now you can just make all of your objects in your crowd just look at one guy and hate him, because now everybody's just looking at that one person. Obviously we can also move it slightly further, and we're going to have that effect that I was talking about with smaller objects and bigger number of it. You can see it. Just now imagine that there's some kind of table leg, or some that instead of humans we've got some kind of hair strands, and you get the point, right? So this is actually extremely cool feature, and I love it. So I'm going to be using it, but obviously we're not going to be rendering in this scene. So let's just move on to the next super good feature, and that's going to be something that I am absolutely thrilled about. Oops, I lost some of the textures, so quickly let's Let's quickly try to fix the problem by doing the best thing I can come up with. So very quickly, I'm not going to be looking for textures now, but when you will be working on, again, larger scope projects, when you will be doing some backgrounds or animation for your clients, and I kid you not, this is going to be happening a lot of times when you will be working for some construction development companies. They will ask you to add some kind of nice view outside that they will like to manipulate to some extent. And as you can see, we've got all of those trees growing all around. This is literally going to be the easiest thing to do to make this absolutely amazing. So first of all, I prepared two very easy to manipulate scatters. So let's just examine them. First one is a forest fall preset that we have from the Chaos Cosmos. So you can also use it the same way. And you can see that these fall trees are actually growing a little bit too high up. You can see that some of those trees aren't supposed to be on a slope of a mountain. This is not where this type of trees will grow, because they would be outgrown by all the pine trees out there. So we can actually limit not only the slope but also the altitude for those objects. And this is very powerful because, again, we have a lot of those situations, and that's a new feature in Corona, by the way. So that's really putting a smile on my face, because that's amazing. Is there a professional practice to have some references first and then start working on your scene? Yeah, that's actually not the worst way of doing it. Hi, nice, and thank you very much. So now, what we have here is the altitude. So as I mentioned, we've got slope limitation, which came with Corona 9, if I recall correctly. So this was really godsend, because first of all, we've got this option to quickly change at what angle the trees and elements can grow. So here I've set it to 50%, 50 degrees. So if something is going to be it's going to have a too high angle, it's just not going, the trees are just not going to grow there. That's the first thing. But you barely or rarely or even never see trees growing on the top of a mountain, especially if it's going to be big and it's going to be, well, one of those mountains that just are too big to fall. Because over altitude of 100 and something meters, trees just cannot live, and that's really weird, but don't quote me on that, because this is the info I read in on Google this morning, to just be smarter that way. But altitude limitation is going to allow you to first of all get rid of all of the trees that we had on the top. Now by default, the range is going to be from 0 to 200. So you can see that we've got few trees that are just basically growing on 0, right? Because some elements of this scene are placed on 0. So I'm going to limit this slightly to a range of let's say 65 centimeters and sorry, it's 65 meters. And now at this point, we're only going to be growing the trees that are going to reach or start the 65-meter height. So in the end, we only have some of the trees growing on the top. And again, it might not be the biggest boom ever at first glance, but before that it was extremely annoying to set up. And now we're going to talk about the pine trees that are way easier to set up. We can use the area maps and whatnot to position the elements more, but it is really going to be counterproductive to have multiple of those, and actually we would get really annoyed by having to draw this in a very precise manner. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and start by changing the altitude for the second scatter. Let's just wait for it. Okay, surface scattering, we're here, we're almost there. Now that's due to my problem. So again, altitude limitation, and this is going to be the good thing, because now I'm going to limit those trees from going at the top. So from what I remember, the mountain that I've placed is not bigger than 190 meters. So from zero. And you can see that I'm cutting all of the trees from the top, which is again, super convenient. But wait, there's more. Because we've got also the fall off curve, and that's the thing that I love the most, because by default it's going to be set to just simply a line, so you're going to get even distribution on all corners. But here we've got a very nice thing. This is our starting point, so the lowest altitude, and the height is the amount of trees you're going to get. So altitude versus amount. So if I'm going to change this curve so that it goes down the way it does right now, the higher we're going to get, the less trees we're getting. And that's really amazing, because again, we have so much more flexibility this way. I wish there was more of this kind of flexibility with, for example, rotation, scaling, because, for example, I would love to have those slopes for let's say bigger objects, so those bigger objects are only going to be in critical positions, or we can just go YOLO on it and just try to do the reverse, where we're only going to have the trees at the top. So it's a little bit funny, I know, but at least we have this opportunity to set it up correctly to our liking, and having the ability to control all of those things again is just priceless. So this is our feature number 2, and it's just for the scatters. So let's go back to our scene with all of those teapots, and I'm going to show you one more map that, one more feature that came out with the newest Corona, and I believe it's going to be very useful for all of you guys who use floor generator for tiles, for planks, and lots more, because we will be able to introduce a lot of extra damage to our objects absolutely for free, actually. So let's quickly set up some kind of environment, so we're going to actually be able to render this. YOLO. Yeah, let's just try it now. Scene, go to environments, scene setup. I'm just going to drop my favorite HDRI. It's from HDRI website. Okay, so let's continue. Now just realized that since this is sponsored by Chaos, I'm just going to refrain from calling other companies, because that would be not very nice. We've got this simple Corona physical material. If I'm going to render the teapot that I've placed in the scene, groundbreaking, but it's not going to be anything to impress you. It's a teapot, so it's going to be simple as the teapot gets. Funny thing is that there are rumors in the industry that the teapot we see is not exactly the teapot that they planned for. It was supposed to be like that, and for some reason somebody mistyped some values, and it's supposed to be at least 25% higher. So the teapot that we see can be also found in Toy Story 1. So if you're going to be watching it, there's a scene where they are literally using this teapot because it's an industry trope. So very funny trivia. Anyway, going back to our map that I wanted to show you, this newest map is actually part of a larger update. So here we've got Corona Edge Map. It's very similar to what you would expect from, let's say, Corona AO, Corona Distance, or just regular wire, but it works in a very peculiar manner. And from my understanding and from what I know about the rendering so far, this is actually the industry first, because they came up with this idea that seemingly wasn't really that obvious, but once you see it, it's actually super cool. So first of all, the edge map is not exactly the AO map. It reacts to all of your borders in your model. So if you're going to want to add a few additional bumps here and there, or some kind of nice detail, what we can do now is just select a few of the edges and split them to allow some damage to occur. Yes, how am I going to call this damage, since it's not even anything interesting? Well, for that to happen, we would need some kind of nice textures. So first of all, we're going to need a bitmap that's going to allow us that. So for example, I'm just going to place whatever map I'm going to find first. Let's use Vizacademy textures that we provide to our students, because I know them and I hope that nothing bad is going to happen. Brother, any VRA workshops soon? Well, we're thinking about that. We're not saying no, but it's just that Corona is a little bit better when you look at it from our perspective. It's just better. So first of all, you can see that the near value is going to be the value that's actually going to be occluding. So this is pretty much going to be something that this is something that I would love to see more consistent from Corona. I love this software, but they have almost the same functionality named with 5 different ways on 5 different ways. But go to far texture, and now look at that, we're seamlessly adding all of that detail. Plus we can also add some extra dirt if we want to, but for some reason we actually need to make sure that we add a mix into it, because that's something that is not part, for example, of Corona AO, where you have this very convenient AO distance, which should be also added here, but it's not, and I'm just going to say probably yet, because this is a new feature and they're rolling it out from scratch. So this is amazing, because really I never seen something like this coming to life, because typically those maps that I'm mentioning are very dependent on some kind of additional properties. So typically it's going to be either your typical those type of maps are going to be dependent on the mesh density, distance from another object, but this one is going to be selecting and let's say working with all the edges on your object. So in this case, I'm just going to go for a mix, add this map in. So quickly, we're just going to play with the mix in, and now let's try to render this out to see how it works. You can now see that I'm neatly adding so much more detail. I mean, we should probably swap the colors in this Corona mix instead of adding this very weird color. Let's go for a regular mix. And we're just going to go ahead and swap it to be black. So this way we're actually going to get dirt around the edges and it looks super cool. The funniest part here is that right now I can introduce this kind of damage and a little bit of dirt on my object along some kind of lines. So what I'm going to be using it for most of the time is just, I'm going to be massacring my models. I'm going to go for some kind of deselection. Let's go for cut. And I'm going to be cutting some kind of a trajectory on my objects, so it's going to have some kind of scarring on it. Super fast and convenient to add. That may I add. Then we're going to be splitting it, and we suddenly have a little bit more detail on our object that wasn't there before. A quick way of just introducing a little bit of dirt here and there, and with cut functionality mixed in on this object, it's super cool. I know that not all objects are going to appreciate being split open, especially with some other maps functionality, but I must say that I'm really satisfied with how this works, because quite literally I'm going to be I'm going to teach my students how to add damage to wooden beams, how to add cracks to those, and this is going to be extremely useful. You know what? I haven't tested it, but I'm going to do a quick test because I just came up with something that might be actually quite useful for that kind of work. And look at that! It works flawlessly, actually. So in theory, what we can do is just simply do a nice mix-up. So let's take away the far color and the base color. So it's basically going to be a black and white dirt map, and we're just going to add displacement to our object. So allow me to add the displacement, please. So 3ds Max is probably just doing an autosave for my sake, so I'm not going to be very fussy about it. But look at that! Okay, now this is something that I just came up with, and this is going to be a game changer for me. This is awesome. Okay, I now have my new favorite map in Corona, so thank you very much. Hello from Pakistan. Mike, can you share your PC specs as I'm planning to upgrade my PC? I would say that best thing I can give you is recommendation to visit our video on what computers to buy. Right now, again, it's not going. My computer is, let's say, not outdated, but currently there are better offers, and I cannot give you any recommendations for hardware at the moment because I haven't checked what's the best at the moment and what would be the best solution for us. But at the same time, I must say that definitely at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, but if you are already working with larger scenes, 32. If you are really working with larger scenes, 64. Do not go for 128 because that's an overkill and you're not going to be using it unless you're really going to be super bad at optimizing scenes. So okay, this was feature number 3, which again I'm a big fan of. So let's continue and go to the biggest and baddest of them all. Corona has now a super cool tile map. There's one that is very similar in a regular 3ds Max, and it's literally called tile. So what's the difference, or what is the benefit of using the one from Corona? Well, mostly it has way more spinners to play with, so that's something that I would definitely recommend. I'm also going to be showing you possible use cases of this map to give you some better understanding of the whole process, but let's just get started clean with some kind of regular map. Okay, so this scene, let's close it. So I'm going to just gain a little bit of performance. Let's close this one again, performance sake, and those those are now closed, and we're going to go back to our newest, baddest feature. So this bathroom is, let's say, very simple, and when it comes to modeling it, you probably could do it in a couple of hours. Well, if we assume that we already have the design. So I borrowed this design from a friend of mine, and this is by one of the designers, Todorov. So let's just make sure to add here the nice base color map. So this is something that a lot of you will say, yeah, again, 3ds Max already has one, but it doesn't have the same functionality, which is super duper easy to use. First of all, this map is going to be working with UVW mapping. So as long as your UVW mapping is going to be set correctly, you're going to be in a clear. One thing to state very early on is that your tile width and height is not going to be described in centimeters, it's in units. So that's not exactly what I would call very easy to follow, but think of it as how many times this value is going to be present within the bounding box. 4 times means that it's going to be 4 times bigger than the bounding box. And you can see that right now we've got 25 centimeters tiles in this bathroom. So it's really going to be something nice to play with, but the tile width is probably not the best thing out there, but it's definitely something I like. So gap thickness, let's just lower that a little bit, so we're going to get a little bit more lifelike tiles where they were actually laid by somebody who knows their job. So you can see that it's super nice. Why it's nice and how can I even tell you that it is? First of all, the gap size is not changing the size of a tile, so it's really convenient. The gaps are going to be slightly growing on top of the tile, so you're actually going to have perfect mapping all the time. I'm graphic designer and 2D animator. I want to learn 3D modeling and 3D animation. Which software is the best? There's no such thing as which software is the best. There's software that's going to be excelling at one point, and the other one is going to be, well, different. So what I would recommend you is try to work with each software for a couple of hours and not a few days, and just randomly pick which one you want to start with. 3ds Max, CAD, so Cinema 4D, maybe Rhino is going to be your thing, or maybe you're going to just well, do as I do and just stick to 3ds Max. I would definitely also recommend checking out Blender, but again, 3ds Max is the closest to my heart because it helped me a lot, well, mostly with getting my projects done. And now 3ds Max, Maya or Blender is free. So Blender is free, and it's getting better each time. With each update it's just going to get a little bit better. But going back to our topic, first we can introduce some maps. So obviously we can make sure that the mapping is going to be there, but the very cool thing is that we're going to be able to either crop our texture or do the tiling per original tiling or mapping, the original mapping of the object, so it's going to be respecting it, or we're just going to go for the center. So that's a very powerful thing to have. On top of everything, in this beautiful tile map that I'm going to be using a lot, we also have the gap roundness. So what we can do is add a little bit of roundness for the corners. Let's make this a bit thicker. Oh, actually, look at that. That wasn't possible before, and we can really do a lot of things thanks to that. It's a very nice thing, or a nice way of adding a little bit of life to your tiles. But what is definitely going to be something that again I would recommend it to the team if I would be able to, and I'm going to try to do it on the forums. I would go for additional output for a bump map, just like some of the maps from other categories would have. So because right now, if I want to change this map into my bump map, I'm going to have to change this color to black and this one to white, while it's essentially going to be always the same trope where I'm just going to be doing this exact thing to make or add the bump to my object. And a lot of times, okay, in this case the bump isn't really that visible due to the light settings in my scene, so let's make sure to actually make it a little bit more bombastic, and we're going to add displacement, because yes, displacement is also on the table. So let's go for one displacement and bump one as well, just so it's going to be nice and visible. So this is super cool because it instantly adds so much realism to all of those tiles. It's just an instant transition. So I'm just going to be praising this a lot, and my students are going to hear about those tiles a lot, because this can also be used to create bricks, and I haven't even yet touched upon the best thing about this whole map. So let's remove the tile map for. Now let's move the slate, and we've got quite a lot of different patterns to work with. So those patterns are going to be the industry standards. So basically what you're getting is the ability to place all of your tiles in a manner that you're going to really enjoy. So also corner radius, I would love to also see corner gap, and a third option for color. I'm going to have a lot of suggestions on this map quite soon, but regardless, this is a quite nice, really the easiest stack bond, stretch bond, Flemish, and all of that. So I'm not going to be going through all of them because obviously you're going to be bored before I get through all of that. But now it also has custom pattern. So the custom pattern is going to work like this. The first value is going to be offset, the second one is going to be the width, and then it's going to be the height of a tile. So it's essentially going to mean that we can translate this to 0, 1, 1, 0 offset. You can see that offset is 0, value of 1, the width is 1, and you can see that also in our case we've got this 1 of you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and use some kind of extra device to let you help. Please, how long time it takes to make animation using corner render? My CPU is Ryzen 595X. I mean, does the process of rendering time compared to V-Ray? Yes, it's essentially going to be almost identical in some scenarios. Corona is currently the fastest CPU rendering out there, but there are some ways of optimizing each rendering engine. So I would say I would highly recommend Corona Renderer as your rendering engine, although V-Ray is not that far behind because a lot of tests were done, and I must say that obviously there are some ups and downs to all the software we're going to be talking about. So first of all, okay, let's lower the size of so this is going to be easy to explain this way. So first of all, we've got a 0, so it's the offset where the line is going to be. Next, we've got our width, so it's just the width of the tile, so it's pretty much like this. Then we've got the height, so it's this value, so it's super easy. It's a calculation of what we've got already here. So width, height, that's pretty much it. Then we've got the offset. An offset is also going to be something that we can change in the randomization. So that's a very powerful thing to have. But you can also see that we've got those funny values in here. So 0.1, half, and 1. So this is going to be pretty much, again, offset of 0.5. So that's a nothing burger. We've got the height of half. So it's just that, and it's okay. So I see that my mapping must be wrong, or they need to update this, because this is definitely supposed to be the width and its height. Also, am I wrong in here? And also the last value is going to be described as our width, sorry, height, while this is supposed to be width. So the mapping suggests that the computer says we're wrong, but it's essentially something that most likely is not supposed to be here. But yeah, so for now it works the way we can see it, but to be honest, it's supposed to be the other way around because the mapping suggests it. So next, we've got the third one, which is just essentially, wait a minute, it has 4 values. So it is going to have 4 values because it's going to be like this. Once we set the offset, offset is set. Once we set the height of our tile, in this case, it's going to be the width, actually, so it's a little bit weird. Essentially, what we're going to have here is that once we set the height, the whole row is going to be like that, so we cannot really do anything about it. But we can split the size of it as many times as we want. So if I'm going to just type in another value at the very end of this, so let's go for 0.3, 0.1, we're actually going to see that we can continue adding as many variations as we like. black. And our tiles are going to be crazier with each added value, so we're going to have a lot of options of splitting. Plus, we've got the row height, shrinking W's, and we also can add gap distortion. So gap distortion is pretty much going to be your typical noise map, or let's say damage. So distortion is going to be cool if you're going to be creating some kind of bricks, for example, because you're going to be able to introduce some additional maps into your whole setup. So for example, we can go for Corona bitmap, apply some kind of black and white map to our object. In this case, I'm just going to grab one of the tile textures that we talked about. So dirt 4 is going to be essentially it. And quickly, we've got some kind of randomization. We can also set this map independently with some kind of different mapping. So for example, I can now copy my UVW mapping, paste this mapping, change it to 2. Let's go for 150, 150 by 150, and change the Corona bitmap UVW mapping channel to number 2. That's also going to, that's in theory going to have effect on the map, but it didn't. So that's a new thing for me. Okay, you do you. I would probably expect it to behave a little bit differently, but it didn't. Okay, so that's another thing to talk about. Now, there's another trick or feature that I want to show you. So let's go ahead and just add the tile map. That was, are there any updates on V-Ray? Still waiting for a handful of functions like wet maps, blend textures, to name a couple to be implemented into GPU rendering. Projects on hold until they port them. Basically, you can expect that they will add something like that soon, but don't hold your breath, because it's not going to be, let's say, anytime fast. So one of the features that I requested at Corona forums, and the reason why I actually created the account on there, was Corona pattern. And all and behold, just a couple of years later, they've actually added it. Obviously, they had better priorities to go through, but I'm just joking around that this is one of those things that you just have to be aware of, that in typical situations, in typical scenarios, your requests are going to be probably overlooked by the, let's say, what the community wants, plus what's hip and new at the moment. Because once Corona added light mix, everybody had light mix. Once Corona added good volumetrics, everybody updated it. It's also a thing that it's also obvious that it's related to new technologies, but it's something that we have to live with. So Corona tile map also has a very powerful new feature. We can actually add the tile color as a multi-map, and once I do it, you're going to see that the tiles and the whole setup doesn't look that impressive. So what I'm going to be able to see here, the issue is I've sold my render nodes to buy GPUs, so I've gone from 256 cores of CPU to 16. That was very bold of you, very bold. I would do a partial transition before that, but well, now what we have new in our Corona multimap is a tile ID option, and this is quite cool because again, we have randomization per individual tile. This is very powerful because we're mapping per each individual tile added into our stock. So again, it's just super powerful, and I love it because it's going to be helping a lot of my students get their scenes done way quicker. And look at that, we also have the ability to still control the size of the tiles, and that's quite cool because this is not just some weird mapping that's going to be randomized in a weird way. It's actually following what we have here. But you probably would like to also have an ability to add multiple textures, because tiles, for example, Portuguese, Spanish tiles are very popular in certain areas. Well, Portugal and Spain. So we can actually go for those tiles, quickly add them, and randomly place them in their position. The cool thing about it is we're still retaining the ability to massacre those objects by simply adding a little bit of hue randomization. This is not something I would be recommending with a tile set that you know is supposed to have this type of color scheme, but who's going to stop me? And now let's go for 100% randomization, and this is just amazing because we can introduce all of those colors, all of those options. Variety is a strong factor in new Corona tile, and I really love it. So on top of that, Corona has quite a lot of features that will speed up the process of rendering. It parses the scene way faster, and from what they typically also add some RAM optimization, so that's a cool thing as well. Corona randomization map is not staying behind because we essentially can have almost the same features as with our mapping, but with our multi-map, but on the randomization. So here I have a texture that I downloaded off the internet, and you can see that those are actually 4 tiles. Back in the days, what I would do is I would try to crop those all of the images just one by one. I would go for something like this. I would just grab that, crop it, and create 4 options for the style. But in this case, I'm just going to be super lazy. We're going to go for randomization, tile, and just let's add it in. Thank you very much for not allowing me. Now, what we're going to notice is that the tile is going to be forced into this corner 4 times, so it looks ridiculous. This is not what I wanted. This is something that would probably get my client a little bit angry, so instead I'm going to be able to use randomization. But randomization in this case is also not going to solve my issues, because you can see that even if I'm going to randomize it and go from 1 to 0, so the UVW box is going to be moving per 1 value. So in this case, you can see that it's definitely not going to be a good looks if we're going to do it this way. So what can I do about it and how to fix it? First of all, we're going to make sure to go for tile randomization. I'm going to then change the UVW, my mapping, the tiling of my map. So it's going to be 0.5 by 0.5. So it's essentially going to be placing or showing me only half of my texture. So it's essentially going to be just 25%. You can see that we now have a zoom in, but I'm smart like that, and we're going to go for 0.5 in here. So we're going to move our texture, so it's going to be pretty much placed in the right position. And now we're just in the clear because we've got the whole thing in. So this is a full texture, full tile placed in the right position. We're still going to have a little bit of a bad time with the randomization because we haven't yet set it up, but at least it looks a little bit better. The size is at least the size is correct now. But we go back to our UVW mapping, and we can actually add the limits of 0.5 as well. So what we're going to be doing, and what the Corona randomization does, Corona map randomization does, is it actually works with the full texture. So that is why setting up limits for negative values is also going to be very important. And you can see that now without the need of splitting the texture 500 times, I was able to add this in relatively quickly without really wasting my time on cropping, creating new objects. It was just a few clicks plus the explanation part, which always has to take a little bit longer, but at least we've got it set up. And now the last element is just, again, placing or remaking the texture to be a bump or displacement map, which we already talked about, but I haven't really mentioned one very nice feature. So let's go for a white color, swap, Okay, what's going to be cool is that we can also add a little bit of blur. So if I'm going to just add the bump, we're going to notice that more reflections are showing upon the tiles as we're getting more bumpy surface. So let's take away the base color for now. So yeah, base color black definitely helps you see the detail that I'm trying to show you. Love this one. I really do love it as well. Unless you're talking about me, I'm also very nice. Let's just go ahead and add this bump. We can also add a displacement if we want to, but the thing is that right now it's barely visible due to my processor got a little bit fizzy, so let's just add the displacement instead, so it's really going to be instantly seen. Okay, so now all the tiles are neatly extruded. Quickly we can change whatever we want about it to reposition if we want to, but at this point, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go to the tile map and add a feature that I really love. Again, is the gap blur. So we're going to blur it out 0.4 in this case. So it's going to create this nice effect that you can see here. And look at that. Look at that. Free version of textures. This is just amazing. You know who I'm talking about. You know who's the designer who has this type of tiles, and those are always a problem to add to your scene. And finally, they're not. So it's an easy win-win scenario. Ignore this part. It's just that the amount of displacement I'm adding is actually poking through the doors because I was not paying attention when I was mapping this element altogether, although it's still really amazing. We can add the randomization to our tile map, and thanks to the fact that now randomization works with maps, not only textures, it's just a godsend. This pretty much is all the features I wanted to show you in today's webinar. It's definitely going to be worth mentioning that Corona 11 is up for the grabs right now, so you can go ahead and download it as soon as you can. Make sure to visit Corona's website and probably leave some kind of comments on their Facebook, because this is definitely the best update so far. Plus, on top of everything, remember guys that to make those videos possible for us, we have to go through a lot of research, we have to prepare a lot of scenes for you, and we have to also make sure that our video reaches the audience that it is designed for. So my sincere small favor that I would like to ask you for is leave a like under this video, make sure to subscribe to our account, and if you can, make sure to use the feature to share the video with others, because if the algorithm is going to grab the information on our on the video and that it's being shared, it's also going to be more let's say pushed towards you as our audience, and it would be absolutely amazing to have more of you during our streams. Please, sir, answer my question. And what the question was, can we make tile like this in the line? Yes, you can actually do that in line, or change whatever you like about the features. You would have to actually have a little bit differently positioned or prepared textures, but tile height, so let's change the width to 0.3, and we're going to notice that it quickly updates to whatever we like. Yes, you can see that it's perfect, and it's just going to be the easiest thing to do ever. So that's it. The first feature is like very old rotation constraint, nothing special, thing useful for VFX shots mostly. This is not exactly true, because this is not, yes, it was possible with different solutions, but it wasn't part of scanners. And you have to understand that using particle systems or some kind of elaborate labyrinths to create thousands of copies of objects that will be looking at different element is very RAM consuming, and it's going to eat so much of your resources that it's essentially something that you don't want to even start doing. But it is going to be a very cool thing to have this option right off the bat without any kind of repercussions. Mike, can you answer my question how to do UVW mapping for dome like most dome tiling? I'm not sure what do you mean, but when it comes to mapping for a dome in HDRI, it's going to be 360 regardless, so it's going to be that. But if you're talking about dome as an object, what that we want to place tiles on, well, that's going to be probably the problem of actually cutting the elements into the right proportions. So when it comes to mapping a dome or arched shapes, it's also going to be essentially how is it made, because it's not going to be a simple UVW mapping solution. Typically using for example Corona edge map can really be a nice substitute for the gap color or Corona wire, but it all depends on what type of solution you want. Okay, do you think that the map will replace floor generator in your workflow? Thank you very much for that question, and I would say that it is definitely going to change the way I create tiles, period, because it's never going to be easier to add a floor generator to multiple surfaces and risk a crash each time you're adding it. So definitely, when it comes to parquet, I'm going to make some tests, but I'm going to be honest, I haven't yet tested this solution for parquet or some kind of planks. So I will have to give you that answer the next time we meet. So for tiles, definitely, it's a 100% instant change. I'm never going back. But when it comes to parquet planks, not yet, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to have the same functionality. No, Asim, I just answered your question. Mike, hello from Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Anem. It's nice to have you. Hi from Turkey. Hello, Hussein. Okay, Allah. Mike, we want advanced course if you please. Allah, working on it. We're going to have Vizacademy Part 2 for more advanced users at some point, but we're perfecting the current version. So Allah, as you were our student, you should definitely check out our tasks as those were updated, and you're going to get more content quite soon. So Mike, can you answer my question? Okay, thank you. Love from Sri Lanka. Hello, I'm watching from no way. From Antarctica. How do you even get internet there? That's amazing. Please, sir, answer my question. Got it. Stas. Oh, hey, Stas. Nice to have you. Amazing features to play with. Thank you very much. And now, Portuguese tiles, nice taste. I actually love those, and I must say that those just look amazing. Hello from Russia. You are the best. Thank you, MGM. So, guys, this is it for today. Once again, thank you to our sponsor Chaos for sponsoring this live stream. We're probably going to be able to talk about the features of Corona on next webinars, because I'm going to be using this new version quite a lot. So grab your hands on, grab Corona 11 right now. Remember to subscribe, and this is it from me for today. Once again, thank you, and see you next time. In just a week. By the way, in a week we're going to do something very, very cool. So we're doing live feedback episode 2. So if you want me to talk about your work during our live stream, to give you some tips and hints on how to improve some elements, you can, for example, do a very nice thing. Post your work and also add a question. Mike, how would you improve this element? How to model that? We're going to have a little bit of time to go over some of those features, and I know that some of you didn't get my answers the last time, but I'm going to try to pack more of your works into our next live stream. So your renders live feedback next week. Be prepared to upload something if we get enough enough of those nice submissions, we're going to do a super extra live stream on Saturday, but it all depends on what you're going to get. If this video gets 1,000 likes, we're going to post more detailed description of all the features in Corona 11 as a separate video, which is not going to be in a form of a live stream, so it's going to be way faster. Thank you very much for that. Remember to Vizacademy platform, and you can also check out the Vizacademy player, obviously. So this is it for today. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Thank you for joining, and well, hope you learned something.